All right, you guys, welcome to our Thursday morning virtual coffee mastermind. Thursday morning is my favorite day of the week because I get to hang out with all you guys and it's so much fun. This morning, Chris was here last week, Chris Rains, and he talked to us about a cool lead service that he found. And today, he's coming back to talk to us about how a VA has helped give him his time back to focus on income producing activities. And so Chris has a VA company that he uses and recommends. And Justin is the owner and founder of that company. And so Chris and Justin are going to take control here. First, Chris, I'm gonna have you talk first and introduce Justin since you know all about him. But what I want to tell you about Chris that you may not know is he is a top producing agent, and so he truly knows what it means to be able to um, get your time back so that you can do all the things that you need to close deals. This guy closes deal after deal after deal after deal. And I know it because he works with me and I see it every time he closes a deal. So he is a top producer and someone that is a great role model. So, Chris, it's all yours, buddy.
Absolutely. Thank you, Debbie, for the introduction. For those of you, like I said, that don't know me, I've been an agent for 6 years now. I've done right around 450 transactions in the last 6 years. About 110 of those in the last 15 months during a market where everything's really slow. What I found is that me being able to leverage my time back, get help doing all of those tasks that I was struggling with, staying consistent with social media, staying consistent on top of some of my emails, managing all the different things that it takes to, be I guess, influencer within your community, within your sphere, within your Facebook reach, and growing and scaling all of that. So I added in a VA to my business once I started looking at the cost of it, and I'm like, so you mean to tell me that I can hire a full-time employee for about what I make off of one deal? So if that full-time employee that's working for me all the time can literally help me do one extra deal a year, they take care of everything. They help me do a lot more than that. But literally, one deal a year pays for it. So for me, looking at it, I was like, it's a no-brainer. I've got to add this as soon as I found out that it was even an option. Um, they take care of so many things for me. There's all kinds of little intricacies, even from wishing everybody on my Facebook friends list a happy birthday every day, sending out my pre-recorded birthday video message to make sure that I'm hitting and dinging all of my people, staying in front of them over and over again. There are so many things behind the scenes, whether that with calls, text, CRM management, literally everything that a VA can do for you guys. Once I had a VA for a while, my buddy Justin here, he started doing a thing where allowing some agents and different people to actually partner with him through some different options. And that's kind of where Justin and I started working together a little bit more. And yeah, so there's nobody on this planet, I believe, that is more well versed in what a VA can do for you and exactly how to employ that in your business. So I want to introduce you guys to Justin here and let him take over. Justin, pop up here, man, unmute
Hello,
yourself
hello.
and take off.
Absolutely, guys. Well, I appreciate Chris, you allowing me on and Debbie and everybody that organizes this. So, your guys' time is super, super valuable. So, anytime that you guys spend with me, I really appreciate it. So, as Chris said, I'm kind of the go-to in the space for anything virtual assistant. So, instead of just talking at you guys, I made a whole bunch of visuals so to kind of walk you guys through, how a VA works, best practices with VAs, and then I'll just give you guys like a ton of PDFs and resources that you can take after the call to kind of deep digest, right? The point of my talk today, guys, is not to convince anybody that they need a VA. It's really to expose you to the idea of a foreign virtual assistant because, while the VAs are from the Philippines and different places like that, it literally is a foreign idea to a majority of us to go, wait, that can't be secure, right? They must not speak great English. Like, that's very un-American to hire someone from a foreign country. Like, we have all these limiting beliefs in our head that hold us back from the potential that we have to go forward. And so today is supposed to stir questions. It's supposed to stir curiosity. But I always like to say, once you see something, you can't unsee it, right? And so whether you need a VA yesterday, 3 months ago, or 4 years from now, it's just a really good concept to understand and know. So I'll share my screen real fast. But as Chris kind of alluded to, one thing he kind of left out is I've been in your guys' shoes before. So I started in real estate in 2014. I'm 28 years old now. So some of you guys are like, oh, he looks pretty young. Yeah, I got started in real estate when I was 16, 15-ish, before I could even be licensed. So about 5 years ago, I spent about 5 years in the real estate game, and then I transitioned to the virtual assistant staffing game about 5 years ago. But since then, we've helped about 4,000 clients, and about 8,300 virtual assistants from the Philippines have been paired with US-based business owners. So I have about 150 virtual assistants on my staff. So I employ about 150 people in the Philippines for me personally, and then I employ about 40 in the United States. So this conversation today can also just be about how to be a better leader of an organization and grow and recruit. Doesn't have to only be about VAs, but I always like you guys get to know me a little bit better than just the presenter, right? I live in Dallas, Texas, so if anybody's out here, I'd love to connect. But I also travel to about 30 states a year. So if you ever want to connect, let me know. Would love to travel to get to know more people. But just kind of, guys, for today's talk, it'll be about 15 to 20 minutes at the longest. But I just want to ask you guys permission to challenge you. If you guys don't mind, throw it in the chat box. If I have the permission to challenge you guys, if you just drop a quick little yes. I like to just make sure you're awake, you're alive, you're watching, and you're not snoozing there. But I like to challenge you guys and have the permission to challenge you guys because, like I said, I haven't been in the game of business more than 10 years. Some of you guys might have been at 30, 40, 50. And so I want to challenge you in ways that you might have preset thinking on everything virtual assistant. So this is my VA team. Like I said, about 150 on my team. They are all from the Philippines. And we're going to kind of go through, the pros and cons of having virtual assistants in your business. So I like to always leave some value. Everything I learned to build this empire of 9,000 VAs and my team of 200 have come from these 4 books. So I always like to say a lot of the principles I believe in and talk about when it comes to virtual assistants come from these 4 books. So I always just like to kind of give you guys some context there that a lot of things I don't teach is like original to me, or I thought it before anybody else on the earth thought it. I learned primarily from these 4 books. So I always like to say, guys, 2025 is a brand new world, right? Right now in the world of business, with all the masterminds I'm going to, consulting some Fortune 500s and different things like that. The business world is kind of starting to accept that about 10% of your yearly revenue should be in virtual talent, right? A lot of us work from home. We don't have traditional offices anymore. You're not going to hire an executive assistant that sits in the office next to you. Some of you might, but that is kind of going away, which is kind of where the VAs have come from. So I always like to say that everyone needs help to scale, right? Whether it's you need help now and have money to hire people for help, whether, it's going to be 3 months from now after you hit, just a groove and you're selling home after home after home like Chris does, someone, you're going to need help at some point, right? And so there's always a few key areas in real estate that people need help, right? Whether it's admin, finance tracking, lead gen, social media, video editing, customer support. There's about 50 plus other areas that we'll kind of touch on. But I always like to say that when you leave today's call, right, there's going to be something that when you leave that you will avoid doing today that you could hire someone at $4 an hour to do, right? Some of you guys at the beginning of the year drew out an awesome social media plan and you're not executing on it, and you won't execute on it today, right? Some of you drew out a great plan to learn AI or to lead generate more, and just for whatever reason, life limiting beliefs, you're not going to execute on a certain thing today that you know that you should probably be doing. I do the exact same thing, right? There's probably also something that you will do today that is actually way below your hourly rate, right? Some of you guys as real estate agents are probably going to log off this and get ready for your weekend open houses, and you're going to start designing Canva flyers, right? I would argue that would be the same as a doctor designing his front desk paperwork, right? It's just not the best use of your time. And those are lots of things that we'll go through today of what a VA can do for you. So just to kind of relate to you guys, my story was in real estate. I started when I was 16, but about the age of 19, I started making about $200,000 a year. Really, really successful. Not to try and boost my ego or anything, but I had a lot of success very early on. But what I found is even with that success in real estate, my revenue was like a roller coaster, right? I had high months, low months, negative months, and then a high month. And obviously commission-based sales caused, in my opinion, I was doing it all myself, right? So I started to look up at 19, 20. I was making $250,000 a year, but I started to miss out on Thanksgiving with my parents and grandparents. I started to turn to alcohol because I was just so busy and so stressed. I had friends that would ask me, "Hey, Justin, what's your hobby?" And I look at them and go, "That's a really good question. I guess working, right?" And I was like, I started to realize, that I had the things, right? I had the car, I had the house, I had the reserves, but I didn't have the things that I got into the business to have, right? Which was time, leverage, freedom, right? I dropped out of college and, left my engineering degree, valedictorian, to get into a business that had more freedom. Yet I felt more trapped than ever, just grinding and grinding and grinding. And so I hired a coach, and I thought the only option was local hiring, right? So, I was making $200,000 a year. But Chris, you could probably relate to this, man. Like if you're making 200 grand a year, you can't afford a $50,000 assistant, right? So if you guys are on this call making 50 a year or 100 a year or 75 a year, like it's not even in your brain to even think that it's in your budget to hire anybody, right? So yeah, I was like, if I'm making 200 grand a year and I don't, and I'm hesitant to hire someone at 40, 50 grand. And guys, some of you guys said you're like from California, different places like that. Like 40 grand, I don't even know if that gets you high school educated out in California, right? Kind of jokingly, like different markets have different pricing. And so one of the things I thought local hiring was my only option. But in 2017, my coach taught me about virtual assistants. And she said, her name was Tara, and she said, "Hey, Justin, all of these companies on this screen have virtual assistants from the Philippines. I think it's something that you should consider because it's really growing each and every day." And so, Chris, if you don't mind coming off mute, man, I would love to ask you, like a good student I was in the coaching realm, do you think I took this advice and started looking into VAs, or do you think I did the complete opposite?
You probably did the complete opposite.
Absolutely, guys.
You
So in
knew better,
2000,
right?
so in 2018, I said, VAs aren't for me, right? That doesn't sound secure. That doesn't sound good. I had a lot of limiting beliefs. So I hired my first US based assistant, right, at 50 grand a year. Took the leap. Now, what I found is my US based assistant was good at a few things, right? Executive assistant work. But as I grew, it just wasn't working out. I wasn't a great leader. I was young, right? There's a lot of things going on. But so in 2019, I said, all right, I'm going to try my hand at this virtual assistant thing. Went online, found my first virtual assistant, and the virtual assistant said, "Hey, Justin, I'll work for $4 an hour because the minimum wage in the Philippines is $1.25 an hour, which is about $10 a day." And they said, "We'll work for $4 an hour. That is 4x our minimum wage. That puts us into the upper middle class." I have a college degree. I've worked for corporate Philippines for American-based companies since 2005. And I said, "Okay, I'm gonna give this a chance, right?" I had a lot of limiting beliefs. I didn't want to be taking advantage of people. I didn't want to be unethical, and I just didn't know a lot about the Philippines. So in 2019, I hired my first executive assistant at $4 an hour. So for you guys that have never done the math, $4 an hour for an entire full-time employee comes out to about $600 a month. What Chris said when he introduced me is that one deal, guys, $600 a month times 12 months is about $7,200 a year. What Chris was referencing is one real estate deal in his world is probably about 6 to 7,000 on average. He probably sells homes that are more, maybe a little bit less. But he found that, you could have one full-time employee for $7,000 a year. And so because it was so affordable, I started to see myself grow. I started off with an executive assistant, grew to social media, grew to, I started to grow the team, and then I started to figure out all the different hires that I could make. So one of the first key lessons I learned really early on is talent has no border, right? Talent does not have to be found at 20, 50, or $100 an hour just because of your geography. Right. So I always use the example of John, the business owner, is making 100 grand a year, and he's like, "I need some help, right? I want some more time with my kids. I want to go to make their choir practice or sports practice." So he thinks option number one is that he could hire, an executive assistant in the US for $3,200 a year. He realizes that will take 40 of his 100,000. So he probably goes to option number two and goes, "You know what? I'll just keep doing it all myself." right? I'll figure it out. I'll grind harder. But the actual option that's hiding a lot of the times, right, is that John could hire a Philippines EA at $4 to $8 an hour with a college degree. Right. And so one of the things we always talk about with VAs, guys, is, our company and what we specialize in is I help people fill the gaps. We don't come in and take a corporation and fire all the Americans and send the work to the Philippines, right? What we specialize in is filling the gap with entrepreneurs that don't have the funds to hire that next hire or need to save some of their profit to get them to that next level, right? We call it insourcing, and not outsourcing, which I think is a big difference. A lot of us have bad taste if we had corporate experience where, they came in, built the corporation in America, built it down, and then sent it all overseas, right? It's very different than what's happening in the business world today. So I always like to say, guys, I know what's in your brain. Most people when they hear the word VA from the Philippines, this is what you think, right? You think of VAs in the rice fields and the paddy fields and the farmers, which is what we see in the textbooks and online when there's flooding. And yet what we don't realize is that's only a small portion of the country, right? The reality is the country has so many big metroplexes that have corporate level talent. This is a little fun fact for you, Chris. IBM has been outsourcing in the Philippines since 1923. And most of you guys know IBM is one of the largest companies in the United States. And growing up, my dad worked at IBM. So I always like to say that I had a little bit of VAs in my blood because I always heard him talking to people from Malaysia, the Philippines, even from the early 2000s. And so a lot of the limiting beliefs that you guys have, right, are going to be language barrier, education level, time zones. Are they going to work my time zone? Are they going to work different things like that? Are they going to have reliable Wi-Fi? Are they going to have knowledge of the Western culture? Are they going to have security, right? So I always like to blast through one. Chris, do you mind if I have a quick guest speaker join me?
Absolutely, go for it.
Cool, awesome. MJ, if you want to come off camera real fast and voice, I always like to introduce you guys. I always call it a little bit of show and tell because a lot of times you don't believe that a VA, can have great English or can have great command. So I brought one of my awesome team members, MJ, here. She is based out of the Philippines, and I'm going to let her kind of just chat for a minute. MJ, if you don't mind kind of sharing, why you chose to be a virtual assistant in the Philippines, maybe talk a little bit about your $4 an hour wage that you started at. I mean, you've been with us for a few years, so you make more now, but just kind of talk about, like what it's like to be a VA and why you like left the corporate world. You have a college degree. Like, why did you come be a VA at $4 an hour? And I know a lot of Americans think like, oh, that can't be great pay, or why would they do that? But you've been here 4+ years, right? And you're allowed to leave whenever you want. So like, I would love for you to just kind of share with everybody, what it's like to be a VA and like some of the things you even do in your day-to-day job.
Sure. So nice to meet you, everyone. My name is MJ. As of this moment, I am working as an affiliate manager for Sphere Rocket. I handle the affiliate department together with the VP of that department. So basically, I handle all of the finance, onboarding of the clients. I handle commissions tracking, all the back-end admin support. So I have a college degree in human ecology, basic major in social technology. I studied in University of the Philippines, one of the most prestigious universities here. It is ranked in top 100 in Asia's universities. And basically, I left the corporate world because the number one reason I always think of is that commute here in the Philippines is very, very brutal. If it takes you like 15 minutes to get to your office, honestly, here it takes about 2 hours. And then it's another 2 hours for you to get back home. So, and that also doesn't account for how much heat you have to go through, how much foot traffic you have to go through as well, how crazy expensive lodging is in the city compared to when you live in the province as well. So, and the pay is really not that competitive at all. So when I heard about becoming a virtual assistant and I heard about Sphere Rocket, actually learned it from a friend. She was like, hey, why don't you try working for Sphere Rocket? Go ahead and give it a chance. I did not have any experience at all working as a virtual assistant, no background at all. I only worked in corporate setup. So when I came here, they were like, okay, what are your skill sets? So what can you offer? And they matched me with the client. And I've been with Sphere Rocket ever since for more than what Justin said, 4 years now. And I actually started as an admin assistant and I worked my way up into becoming the affiliate manager. So you'll have a lot of potential that you can get with your VA. All you have to really know is get to know them. And Get rid of your limiting beliefs. Number one is the communication barrier. Let me tell you, we learned to speak English the moment that we learned how to speak. And most of the generations now actually are better in English than our mother tongue Tagalog. Culturally, it is a little bit sad, but we strive to be globally competitive, so you're not going to have shortage of that talent. And let me tell you, a lot of Filipinos right now are really venturing into this kind of work because of the benefits. We get to stay at home with our families. We have a great work and life balance. We have competitive salaries, and we get to work in the comfort of our homes. And it's not stressful at all compared to the working setup here in the Philippines and a corporate setup. So I may be kind of like hyping it up a little bit, but it is the reality. And it is what it is here in the Philippines. It's hard to get kind of like a stable competitive salary. So becoming a virtual assistant is really a must right now and a high trend. And you're not going to have a shortage in talent, like I said.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, MJ. Guys, if you think MJ's English is like great, or you think that like you need an MJ, I would love for you just to put the word English in the chat, just to kind of let me know, confirm that I've kind of removed your limiting belief around English, right? Now, Chris, if you just go online and you post like on a Craigslist Philippines, right, and you're like, I need an executive assistant, you're probably going to find people, right, that like don't speak great English and they're just trying to get a job, right? But when you go through the right process, you're able to find someone like an MJ. So I always just like to share that with you guys. But so like I have another example here. So MJ is an example of an executive assistant. Another great one that I love in our space is Mimi, right? So she does cold calling for us. She had a 5-year history with cold calling for Comcast. And so she came over, and last year we started her off at about $3 an hour, and she made the company about $386,000 in revenue. Now, of course, Mimi got bonuses because she did so well, so she made much more than just $6,000 a year. But just to give you guys some examples, right? As you know, Mimi's an example of cold calling. MJ is an example of an executive assistant. But one thing that I wanted to give you guys, I told you guys I was going to give you guys something. My executive assistant, Camille, that's been with me for 5.5 years, she started off at $4 an hour. She wrote a guide. It's about 42 pages, and it writes out everything that my executive assistant does for me. So I'll kind of show you guys here. If you guys want a copy of this, Chris, I'll get you a copy so you can distribute, but also give you guys a place to download here in just a minute. But what I want to give you guys, everybody on this call, you're in a different position. Some of you guys need executive assistants, some of you need social media, some of you need video editing, some of you just need like your finances are a wreck, like some of you need full-time VAs, part-time VAs, you need something in between. So I just wanted to give you guys guides so you can take, because I won't be here for 4 hours with you today. I want to give you something you could take. So if you're like, I need an executive assistant, all you would do is open up this executive assistant PDF I'm going to give you, and it's going to walk you through exactly what to do, right? These are the top 50 things that a VA should be doing for you as an executive assistant. These are the top 50 things that my executive assistant does for my home life. And then it kind of goes through like what your executive assistant should be doing, kind of what we hold them responsible for, their KPIs. But more importantly, I give you guys the schedule of like MJ. What does MJ do as an executive assistant? When does she do it? How does she do it for me? What softwares does she use? Like a lot of you guys are like, what's the security like? Guys, MJ has a credit card of mine that has a limit of $300. So Chris, trick question. What's the worst that MJ can do security-wise with me? Damage-wise?
$300.
Yeah, but actually, if she makes a charge that's not authorized, guess what it actually is? Zero.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's zero, right? And so that's a limiting belief where people are like, oh, I can't have my VA do that, or whatever it may be. And so just kind of a thought for you guys there that we kind of help you with that. So I'm going to give you guys some free resources to explore, right? If you guys go to this website, actually, I put the wrong website here. Let me edit that real fast. I want to make sure that you guys get the right one. Give me just 1 second. Let me put that up here on this.
Chris dropped it in the chat, so you
Cool.
should be good. Yeah.
Perfect. I'll throw it up here too. Sphere Rocket Files is a great one. The one that Chris dropped is perfect too. So just a guide for you guys there. Really, really good. Chris, does yours have the links to the resources as well? Cool. Use both of them. So just to show you guys here, the one I have on my screen, this will get you the resources. If you guys ever want to chat about, like, you know, you have more questions about VAs, the one that Chris dropped is kind of like a hotline to me. That gets to me and my team where you can ask questions on how do you get VAs. I got questions Justin didn't answer on the call. I know we're about to go into Q&A right now, so I can answer any and all questions. So just to give you guys those two resources really fast right there. So mine on the screen will give you guys the files. Chris's will be kind of where you can go for anything and everything for that. So yeah, Chris, I'll kind of let you instruct me on how you guys like to do Q&A. I don't want to change it up from a normal process. So, but I'm happy to answer anything and everything.
That's pretty much it. Who has questions? I know there's been some people, they're saying they're interested in the chat, but who's got questions?
Yeah, and I can see there's some questions in the chat I can answer while other people are thinking of theirs real fast. So, cool. Perfect.
And, so Justin, what fees do you charge?
Yeah. So it just kind of varies, right? If you want part-time, full-time, if you need 10 VAs, on average, I'll just kind of give you guys the average and clump it all together because there are different packages. But altogether, our average client spends about 10 to 12,000 a year for a full-time VA, and that includes everything we do for them: setup, compliance, recruiting, matchmaking, all of the training, everything like that. Now that's full time, right? If you need part time, you can take that down to about 7,000 to 8,000 a year, 9,000 even. So it just kind of depends on, you know, and that's per month, you know, and that's like broken down over months. So right, so you're not having to commit to 2 years or anything like that. So that's a really, really good question. So on average, it's usually a few $100s for us to obviously do our part a month. And then it's obviously the VA's pay on top of that as well. So someone in here, I'm just going to go through the chat, guys. Someone says, don't speak great English is not great English. Yeah, guys, I mean, it's just like me. Like whenever I do like paperwork and I do writing, guys, I'm a CEO. Last year, I made $11.2 million and my English is not perfect. I did not pass English class. So yes, you know, I don't expect anybody, even in the US, to ever have perfect English. And if that's something you're stuck on, you know, I'll just be honest with you that then VAs probably aren't for you, right? Because they're not going to be 100% perfect. But Chris, I'll tell you right now, my VAs write better English than I do, right? So I don't think having perfect English is a prerequisite to being, you know, a successful entrepreneur, right? It might be it's good to have, right? You know, I respect people that have perfect English, but it's just not who I am, right? So I would never expect that of any of my people. Someone said, any part-time options? Absolutely, right, guys? Part-time is a great way to start and get your feet wet, which is really, really cool. So like Chris posted a good link there. Going through the chat here, any VAs do QuickBooks? Yes. We hire out about 250 accounting VAs per year. So we have, I think last month alone, we had 300 applications or so with QuickBooks experience. And I know that because we recruit for some of the largest accounting firms in the nation. I'm ready for a part-time VA to start. 12K for full-time. Yeah. So it's about 12K a year for a full-time VA, right? That includes our cost and includes the VA's cost. So yeah, I mean, 12K for the year is a really, really good deal for a full-time employee. But if some of you need less than that, you can even get it cheaper. So someone says, do you manage my VA, maybe retrain or find a replacement if necessary? So guys, we call it co-management. You guys have the final say on what your VA does on a day-to-day basis, how you operate with them, but we're there to help coach, consult you, course correct. And of course, if a VA is not working out for whatever reason, you know, we can replace them for you. So that's not a problem. Are the VAs up on AI to get things done quickly? Yes. So guys, all of my virtual assistants, all 150 of my VAs, they all have a ChatGPT account and some other, and depending on their department, they might have access to AI, like my video editors have access to AI and video. So yes, because guys, here's a really cool thing. A VA on its own at $4 an hour can change your life, right? A VA at $4 an hour and having AI can like double change your life. Like it's crazy, you know, what they're able to do from that perspective. So someone says, I use Mojo Dialer for my VAs who cold call. It helps with managing leads, training in a more efficient manner. What dialer system do you use? You know, I'll just be transparent with you. I've used Follow Up Boss forever. But my general info is I use the best CRM is the CRM that you actually use, right? So any CRM is great. I use Follow Up Boss because my background's in real estate and I ran a big 30-person real estate team. But Mojo's great as well. How can someone get involved in placing VAs? I don't quite, you might want to clarify that question for me. If you're saying like selling virtual assistant services, Chris can tell you all about that. But if you're talking about wanting to get a VA, obviously he can help you with that as well. So I just got back from the Philippines. Most of the people speak great English and are very humble people and nice. There was also 7,300 islands. I thought there were only about a dozen islands. Yes. So I've been there on a trip myself 4 times. If you guys have any questions on that, quick question, Chris. I'm going to throw a quick survey in the chat. I think this will blow some people's mind. Who has been on a cruise before? If you've been on a cruise before, throw it in the chat, right? Throw it in the chat if you've been on a cruise. You can throw your favorite cruise line. You can throw whatever you guys like. Who's been on a cruise before? This is a fun fact for you, Chris. Chris, do you know what the highest population of workers on a cruise ship is?
I'm going to assume the Philippines.
It's from the Philippines, right? So if anybody on here has any limiting beliefs, and yet you've been on cruises and you like cruises, your limiting beliefs are literally being shattered when you go on a cruise. Because if you say, hey, VAs don't have good customer service, VAs don't speak great English, VAs can't do a good job, you're basically looking at a cruise ship and saying your whole operation can't operate. Your casinos must just be having money being stolen from it, right? Because it's worked by people overseas. So just to give you, MJ always talks about this, like a lot of their family members work for cruises. So, people are like, I would never hire someone overseas, but then I catch them on a Mexico vacation in Cancun and they're like, hey, I can tip $2 and it's great money for them. And yet you come back to your business world and you're like, oh, but like I can't pay someone $4 an hour. That would be unethical. But you just went to Mexico and you're like, oh, $2 an hour tip. Look how far it goes. It's the same concept, guys. We just, for some reason, think it's okay in vacation mode. But then when we get into the business world, we're like, no, that can't even be a feasible option for me, right? So I like to give you guys kind of that limiting belief too. VAs are all well educated and many of them specialize. Yes, I'd say VAs are well educated and them specialized, but guys, I won't lie to you. Last month we had 77,000 applications of people in the Philippines, 77,000 to work for us. We only hired 200 of them. So I would also argue with you that 90% of VAs are not educated and specialized, right? But if you can find the 10%, that is where that is where the gold is, right? No different than a corporation here. When a corporate job puts up a job posting, 90% are probably not educated, or qualified for that job, right? You're looking for that 10%. So, some VAs make $10 an hour, 20. Yep. Question.
All right. Thank you, Justin, so much.
You're very
We
welcome.
are going to go into breakout rooms now.
Perfect.
And so I'm going to give you the first breakout question because I didn't prepare Justin for this. So the first icebreaker question for our breakout room is, what is the one task that you could immediately pass off to a VA to get back some of your time? So here we go, opening those breakout rooms.